Welcome to the Church Communications Podcast. We want to help you become a church communications expert. We understand it's a challenging and ever-changing role because we've worked in the church too, which is why we built a community of over 30,000 church leaders that are ready to support and cheer you on. Your hosts for the show are Katie Allred, Kenny Jahng, with special guest host from the Church Communications team. They're here to help you and equip you to better reach your community. We'll talk shop with practitioners, professionals, and communications experts about what's working, what's not, and what's next.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Church Communications Podcast. My name is Abby McCulley, and today I am joined by our friend Julie. Julie is the founder of PlanHero. She's worked with lasers and missiles, bungee jumped in New Zealand and Oregon, crawled under Egypt's pyramids, been lifted in an elephant's trunk. She's the mother of 2 young men, is married to Mason, and is a reformed engineer. She dreams of one day writing a great American novel. Julie, it sounds like you are one of our most interesting guests. We are so excited to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm probably not your most interesting guest for sure. Maybe a tiny bit crazy, just a little bit, but yeah.
Hey, we like a little crazy.
Okay.
So Julie, tell us, a little adventure. We like that. So tell us a little bit about yourself. You're here representing PlanHero, which we're super excited to learn about today. But before we dig into that, just tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I guess I'll start with that reformed engineer bit. Going to school, I did mechanical engineering and ended up working with commercial aircraft for McDonnell Douglas. I was in their weight and balance section, which turned out to be actually super boring. Sounds cool, but it's boring. And then I worked a little bit on a missile launcher system. So you're too young, but maybe some of your listeners remember Top Gun.
Yes, yeah.
Tom Cruise,
I've seen it, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So if I say, talk to me, Goose, then we'll be on. But those were missile launchers. So for air-to-air combat. So plane to plane, there's a launcher that launches a Sidewinder missile. I worked on that launcher.
Wow.
Also sounds
very cool,
but it's kind of boring.
Yeah.
But the most interesting one was industrial lasers. So that we had customers all over the world, and I was young like you, and got to do a lot of international travel. And we had everything from Novo Pignone in Italy near Lake Como to Intel in Penang, Malaysia, and in Taiwan. Actually, they weren't in Taiwan. Anyway, lots of interesting places all over the world. So that was life one. Had kids, got married, had kids, and decided to put career on hold for about a dozen years, and had a great time being a stay-at-home mom, and then did a ton of volunteer work. We are leading to what we're talking about now, which is PlanHero. So in the process of doing a lot of volunteer work, including being 4 years on a public school board, I really came to see that there are a lot of inefficiencies in how we manage volunteers and groups of people. So I was often a leader in getting things done. And so PlanHero was really birthed from a frustration of needing to find people to take over that leadership role, and them not wanting to do it because it looked too hard to them. So it's kind of like, okay, can't we have some tools available so that this is easy? And by the way, at this point, I'm in my early 50s, I'm mid 50s now, but it was sort of like, it also had to be really easy to use because I knew that most people my age, most of my peers were not super tech savvy. So
Right.
It was sort of like, okay, well, this has got to be, really simple and intuitive. So that's kind of brought us to here. And both my kids just graduated college, so we're done with that. So that's kind of Julie in a nutshell.
Wow. You have really done some really interesting things, been some interesting places. And it's interesting that you landed here developing PlanHero. So as we get into talking about that, tell our listeners, what is it exactly if they haven't heard of it? How does it work? What do you use it for? Just give us a little bit of info about it. Yeah.
You bet. So we're in such a time of catchphrases, which drive me crazy. But so I'm going to use one to start with, and then I'll explain it.
Okay.
I'm not so great at the elevator pitch, the elevator speech. We make group organizing simple. Now, what does that mean, right?
Right.
So anything from organizing a church potluck, for example. When you go to do that, the typical thing would be to send out an email blast to everyone and say who can bring what, or bring something. If you're A through G, bring a main dish or whatever. Well, you don't really know who's showing up from A through G until the last minute. So for example, we would have everything blocked out into separate lists so that we know who's bringing a main dish and who's bringing the vegetarian dish. We're out in California, so you better have every kind of dish imaginable. And then you want to know how many people are attending, and maybe you want them to pay something, maybe, and you need volunteers, so you have time spots. So we have all of that can be in one event. That's a super simple example. But another big one is anything to do with time slots over multiple days or single days. So managing volunteers, and it could also be interviewing people. Hey, we're going to do a set of interviews next week. Here are our candidates. You send out a link to them, and they can all sign up for the interview time they want. So those are a lot of examples of what group organizing means. But that's kind of an umbrella. Yeah.
Okay, very cool. So what makes PlanHero different from other sign-up tools out there that already exist? I know you've mentioned that it's very simple and very easy to use, but what would make someone choose PlanHero as opposed to something else that they might already be using?
Yeah, good question. And that when we started out with this, I didn't know other ones existed, but of course, in doing one's due diligence, one looks at what the competition is, and it was sort of the big reveal. I'm like, oh, how come I didn't know about that? But then once I saw it, I thought, yeah, I'm okay that I didn't know about that. And
right.
And actually, our competitors have done a fantastic job of having people get in the mindset of trying to get off of paper or paper sign up or an email kind of sign up. But we're about 6, 7, 8 years younger than they are. And so our technology we had the advantage of being able to take advantage of much newer technology. So we're completely web responsive the whole way. So if you squeeze the screen on your desktop, you'll see what the mobile view is, and you can see what the iPad view is, and it all is web device responsive. So there's no app to download, and everything looks great. And you can also create a sign up straight from mobile. So that's one big thing. Another thing is just that it doesn't look like a giant spreadsheet. It actually looks appealing. So we've been told over and over again that our aesthetic matches the aesthetic of what people want to put out there, which is modern, clean, not a lot of clutter. And then the major thing is we don't have any ads. So that is probably something that's super important to me for 2 reasons. One is the clutter makes me crazy. Just the distraction of, half the time you'll see, on other sites, there'll be, the big banner ad here and the big banner ad here. And they've got big call to action buttons on them that say get started. And I'm thinking, okay, if my dad's on this and he's signing up to go to church or something during COVID, he's pushing all those buttons. And then he's calling me and saying, hey, I don't know how to do this. So I think that's, distraction and confusion. And just, we're online all day. We don't need that. So that's another big part. And then along with that, with regard to the ads, I think a lot of people don't understand how ads work on devices. They're a function of everything of where you live, you as the user live, and also anything else that you've searched in the past, and your age and demographic. So for example, I've tested out my competitors' products, and I've wound up with an email confirmation that had a flashing thing for female balding. And I'm getting a little thin right here, but I don't want that on a prayer sign up,
No, of course not. No, it's very
So,
distracting.
yeah, so that was sort of a long litany, but it's ease of use, no clutter, and keeping your messaging and sort of the ethos of your organization clean from any of that, because you have no control over it. So
Right. And we've actually heard from a lot of churches, they are concerned with the technology they use in terms of what ads are going to pop up. Because, like you said,
yeah,
the church doesn't control it, but people
right,
often don't know how that works. And so
right,
it can be very
right.
confusing, especially for people who maybe are older, aren't as tech savvy. It can be like a real miscommunication, and they think they're getting something from the church that maybe wasn't what they were
Exactly.
expecting,
Yeah,
so that's a
actually,
big one.
to your point, Abby, and this is really funny. There's a communications director who has been using us for a long time, and he said, yeah, because we're talking about this ad issue, and he said, yeah, we had a congregant who said, hey, I just want to let you know this ad came up, on the thing that you sent out, and what the guy was thinking, of course, the comms guy was like,
Yeah.
"Hey, you've been looking at some stuff you probably
That was on
shouldn't have,
you,
dude.
sir.
If you got
Yeah.
that ad." So,
That
I mean,
wasn't
that's
from the
even
church.
more
We did
awkward,
not.
right? It's like, do we need an
Right.
intervention here, or what's up? Because that's on you.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
yeah,
Yes. And people
I
don't
thought
know
that was,
that.
yeah,
That is
exactly.
funny. Yeah. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
that's super important. That's a really neat feature.
yeah.
So in terms of the way that people use PlanHero to interact with the software that they already have, is this something that maybe takes the place of an existing planning tool or an existing CHMS, or is this more of like a supplemental tool to use on the side or to use for specific occasions? How are churches like using that right now?
Yeah, excellent question. And there's really, there's such a wide band, right, of churches out
Right.
there. You've got small churches who are doing, all doing wonderful things, but are all in different stages of technology, right? And it certainly
Right.
depends on demographic of the church, right? So for a lot of churches with older congregations, they are probably less likely to have a CHMS. Or some form of CRM that they're using, for this kind of thing. So for them, this is going to be probably what they're using to do any kind of group organizing. But if they're already using one of the big CHMS platforms, then this would definitely be supplemental, and we're very inexpensive. So if you're already on a CHMS, then compared to them, we're very inexpensive. So the add-on isn't much. But the main thing is you don't have to log in to use us. And so if you're wanting to grow your church, one thing I've noticed with a lot of the CHMS platforms, which by the way are fantastic platforms and save people a lot of time, which is what we're all about. So they're doing a great job, but you have to create an account. And if I were going to be, sort of tipping my toe into a new church, I don't necessarily want to give up that information. I understand from
Right.
the church's standpoint, they want the information because they want to
Of
reach
course.
back
Yeah.
out. But as kind of the user, from the user perspective, I think that's a little bit daunting. So for us, you can sign up. The church still gets the information. It's just you're not creating an account, so it feels a little less thwarting, a little less invasive. So
A
that's
little
one
less
big
committed.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little less committed. Like, let me just check you out
Let's
before,
just see. Yeah.
yeah, before we get married, kind of,
Right. Let's
Um,
just go on a date.
yeah, exactly. Let's date first. It's just lunch, right?
Right.
So, and then the other couple of things that I've also seen through some other threads is I know there's some of the CHMS when they're using the events module, people can't see who else is is attending the event. So if you want to see, hey, are all my pals going to this thing, next Sunday at the church at 5, you can't see. And so I've heard that there have been a lot of complaints about that kind of thing. For us, you can choose. You either can show it or not show it. So that's totally up to you as the organizer. I mean, it's click of a button, enable, disable. And then the other thing is reminder emails. We send out up to 2 reminder emails if you want them. And then the user can also decide if they want to receive those reminders via text. So,
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
That's awesome.
so that makes it really easy. And again, gosh, all we're trying to do is save people time so they can get on with the other stuff that they'd rather be doing than this stuff, the nitty
Right.
gritty.
Absolutely. Very cool. So I think too, something in terms of like creating an account, just where my brain goes is
Yeah.
people often forget their username, they forget their password. And so they'll recreate their account like 6 different times. So you avoid all of that as well. So I think that's really nice.
Totally. And
Very cool.
yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how many people when we were first starting and I was just working with my own peers, hey, can you help me out with this? We need to do some testing. And I would literally sit with them, and in the same 3 minutes after they typed in their username and email address, they're like, their password, no idea. 3 minutes
Not a
later.
clue.
And by the way, I've done that too. So I'm not.
Oh yeah, I do that all the time.
Plug for LastPass, which we're not affiliated with. Love it. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I have to keep all of mine saved. I will forget them. I will never remember my passwords. Yeah. But that is really nice. Just it keeps all of your data from getting cluttered up, I would imagine. So that's really nice.
Yeah.
In terms of navigating, so from the user end, it sounds very easy to use, very easy to navigate. What about for the people working in the churches? It doesn't sound like it takes a lot to manage it or to set it up, or as far as upkeep goes, but maybe walk us through a little bit of that process as well.
Sure. And do you want me to actually show you with my screen, or?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can screen share. And if you're listening to this on audio only, we will have the video podcast available on our YouTube, and you can actually see Julie walk us through this, but maybe just kind of talk us through it as you're going.
Sure. Yeah, I'm never at a loss for words, unfortunately. Just ask my husband. So this is what the dashboard looks like. And
very clean, very easy to follow. Everything is very clearly labeled.
No clutter. And
no
even
clutter.
For a typical church, they're either going to have the sign up tool or a club tool. So there's only going to be one box here. So it's even easier. So if I pull up our sign up tool, then you can see that all events have a card associated with them. And so if I wanted to just create a new sign up that was like a 24-hour prayer or something like that, maybe a parishioner has had a recent diagnosis that isn't great, and so the congregation is going to really pray on his or her recovery. You could put information in here, the description about the person, and then it's all, as you can see, you see live, it's WYSI big. What you see is what you get. So the whole way you're looking at what you're going to see as an organizer and as a user, which is super nice. So I'm not going to bother with this event description. It's pretty obvious. It's just a, text input. And then you add your times and your dates. So if we wanted to be praying March 7, you'd start this at midnight. And you can, obviously, I know some shortcuts. So I'm just clicking in the middle here. But our whole design process was to make this feel like you were somewhere between an iPhone and a Google form, for example.
Right.
So that everything feels familiar with what you're doing. No need to reinvent the wheel. And then we also put your time zone in based on your event. So this is handy, probably less so for churches, but at a more national level for some of the churches that are the more traditional Protestant churches. This is handy if you're at headquarters or doing anything across time zones. Or even if you're doing something with your missionaries, this could be, you pick your time zone, and then whenever you sync, then we know that you're syncing to the right time zone, but you're not locked in based on a global setting. And then you can put in your venue. And the venue part is actually super handy because you can, that's nice when you get to volunteering. Like if you've got, there's a cool church in Utah who uses us in the summers for the churches left the building, and they do everything external for several weeks. I think it might be the whole summer, where they're just out doing all of their ministries. And so you can pick which one you're going to go to, whether it's the food bank or a homeless shelter or whatever it is, you can sign up for wherever it is, and you've got the address there, and it's all hooked to Google Maps. Again, not reinventing the wheel.
Right.
So now these are our 5 dates that we're going to pray. And now I'm just going to choose a list. So this would be more something where you need people to bring things, like maybe if you were doing this for Christmas time and you're doing a drive for, everybody's adopting a family or something, that's what you might use that for. But time spots is what you would use for a prayer sign up. So I'd say sign up to pray.
Okay, so you can make a separate list within this section.
Yep, you can have as many lists as you want to, which is
okay. Wow, yeah,
it's really cool. We've got a great group up in the Bay Area who collect money, and also collect items, and also have their volunteers all on here for people who are transitioning from homelessness to like their first apartment.
Oh,
and
wow,
so
yeah.
It's super cool, and
That's very cool.
It's such a cool thing for churches to do too. I'm so impressed with what they do. Okay, I'll be praying.
Okay, so you can put the time spot item for whatever it's going to be. For this one,
Yep.
I'll be praying.
Yep. And
okay,
you can
and
throw
then
an emoji in there of praying hands, maybe. And however many, you could be unlimited, or you can say, well, I want 2 for each space because I want to make sure that everything gets covered, so that somebody takes that 2 a.m. slot. And then that just goes ahead and populates it out so you can see them super fast. And then I can put it on all dates. This right here is if you want them to be private sign up. So like this is kind of nice, like for the pastor, maybe to do one-on-ones. So the pastor could set this up and have, a month's worth of one-on-ones and have it be private. And that would be a great way
that's
for
very nice.
him or her to have all of their meetings squared away.
This is so cool. And my brain is taking me back to, I remember when I was a kid, the church I went to, we had a 24-hour prayer, like we would do a 24-hour cycle. And it was literally a whiteboard it was a whiteboard in the foyer. And you went and wrote by the time slot, you wrote your name down and you were like, I'll be praying at, 3 p.m. or whatever. And you just had to hope that you remembered your spot because it was on the whiteboard. So this is so much more efficient than that. Yeah.
Yeah. This really makes it way easier. And so as you can see, it's already completely populated. I click launch, and this is where I can say, if I wanted to collect phone numbers, which here I wouldn't do it. I'd only collect phone numbers if you need them, because it's just one more thing for people to do.
Right.
But you can choose when, 1 to 5 days for the first reminder. And then you can have a second reminder, like a couple hours ahead or something.
Oh, that's nice. You can go ahead and schedule that. You don't have to think about it, send it manually or anything. That's nice.
No,
okay.
I mean, this is honestly, we're now done. So that's it, and I could shoot you the link, but this is it. This is what it looks like to, I'll put a preview here, but it's done. So, that's pretty quick.
That was so quick. And that took maybe a minute, and that was with you talking me through it and describing everything. So, super simple process.
Thank you for saying talking through, not prattling on. I appreciate that.
No, of course, it was very helpful.
The other thing here in the description, you can put live links in here. So,
very cool.
If you've got a PDF that you want to put in here, or obviously you could just put all the text in here too. We actually don't limit that. But if you wanted to put a link to the PDF, here's kind of what we'd like you to pray through during your hour. You could do that too. So it's easy. So
it seems very easy, very simple to manage. And so where does all of that data go once it's collected? Does it stay within the PlanHero software? Can they send it to a Google Sheet or an Excel sheet or into their existing software? How does that work?
Let me go back and show you that.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. That's fine. Yeah, I would love to see where it
lives. Good question. So we have downloads. So you can either download, not either, you can do both. You can download a CSV. So of all the signups, or you can download a PDF report. So the PDF is kind of cool. Like, let's say it's the pastor or assistant pastor wants to download the PDF, then they're going to see everybody's name and their time slot. Just super simple. Like, this is great for checking people in, for volunteers or at a service or whatever. So that's handy. But the CSV is going to include everything, like, all information about the time slots and who signed up for what. And when you have a more complicated sign up, then it's nice to have all that data. And if it's something where you do want to collect phone numbers, then you're going to wind up with that, and you can upload all of that into your CHMS or into your MailChimp or wherever you want to use it. So yeah, you've got all the data.
Very nice.
Yeah. And I would point out too, let me go back, just that anytime, like, you can message the invitees. So like, there was one big one where someone had, very serious COVID, and boy, they did a hardcore 24-hour prayer that they just kept going with. And they'd use our update here to say, hey, he's really turned a corner, or there was a period where it was like, hey, the breathing's really tough, only getting X amount of oxygen. Let's focus just on the breathing. And it was really cool. And the gentleman survived. But it was so lovely, to see some of the stuff. I had to help them set it up, so I was receiving these updates as well. And boy, it was just lovely to see. But that messaging the invitees is really handy, because you can do it just for a specific day, or for everybody who signed up. So
that's very cool. That really brings in the community aspect into it as well.
It does. It completely does. And it's I have to say, it's for me, I get to see a lot of stuff going on, and over time, these last 4 or 5 years there's been a lot of vitriol with politics, and we've had the whole COVID mess. And for me, it's just so rewarding to get to see people from all sides of the aisle out doing really good things. And it just, no matter what their belief systems are, there are a lot of people doing really good things, and I get to see that, which is great, because when I turn on the TV, that is not what I see.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really fantastic. So.
Well, you've mentioned the prayer sign up. That's an excellent example of how a church might use it. You've also mentioned like a food drive or a volunteer day. Are there any other specific examples, or maybe just like interesting, cool examples that you hadn't seen before, of ways that churches are using this sign up tool for anything any specifics?
Actually there was a cool one, this is kind of COVID specific, but it would probably help with anything that has a high demand of people. And that would be like during the holidays, during Christmas, there was a nativity display, but you could only have so many people in at a time, kind of passing through it. So I think it was either 3 to 5 minutes, maybe it was 5 to 10 minutes, but all in those little tiny intervals. So you would sign up for your interval, but it definitely, you think about, by gating things in that way, what that does for your parking lot issues, for just crowds in general, for your folks who are less ambulatory. So they're not, trying to get in there and fight with people. So it's really good for that kind of thing. And then the other thing I mentioned, just for the pastor, being able to have those one-on-ones and schedule it. And then he has a record of, that in the past, to reach out to those folks. And then I have a couple that here, I'll just pop up if that's all right with you.
Of course. Yeah.
Let's go back to this again.
That I didn't even think about it in terms of like record keeping, to keep track and remember who you've already talked to in order to follow up with them, or maybe if you have volunteers on a list and you want to like reach out again for another volunteer opportunity. That's very helpful as well.
Exactly. And you can actually do that when you're doing your invitees. You can actually use a previous list. So, and this is probably going to be very slow to come up because I've got so many lists in this demo account, but this would show all of my previous list for all my other events that I've done. So if you had, everybody who did the prayer sign up before, then you could actually specifically target those same people. Or that's going to take a while.
But that's nice. So it stores it all in there. So you're not having
Yeah.
to constantly like download and re-upload your same list of people. It just lives in there.
Exactly.
Okay, that's really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super handy. Actually, I'm really glad you pointed that out, because that's something that I neglect to point out. But this is just like for a quick, hey, let's all go skating on Friday night. And maybe the church is subsidizing part of it, but they want to charge $5 a person. So you just sign up here at $5 a person. Because we do the collect money thing too. So now you know who's coming and how many, and you know how many lanes you need or whatever. So, sorry, I was thinking bowling. We have a bowling one too.
Right.
That was skating. I'm equally bad at both. And then another one, let's see, you can't see that. Sorry.
So how does the payment processing work? Do you connect your own payment processor, or do you guys process everything on your own? Is it through the church? How does that work?
We use Stripe as our payment processor.
Oh, okay.
So,
Gotcha.
And Stripe's the largest payment processor now, I think, in the world.
Very well known, very reputable, for sure.
It's winning. And it's super easy to use. So if you already have a Stripe account, then you just connect to it. If you don't have one, you create one. It's super fast and easy. For every transaction, there's a 5% fee, which basically we're splitting with Stripe, plus 50 cents per transaction. So like that $5 one would have been 25 cents for the 5% plus 50 cents for the transaction. So it'd be $5.75 at the end. And that's all pushed out to the user. So the church.
Okay, gotcha.
$5. Yeah. It's pretty seamless. And then you just pop your credit card in and you're done. So
yeah, that's very easy. Cause some stuff like that can get very clunky, and it can get very like, I know when I'm like taken to one page and then to another page and then another page to check out and another page to confirm. And I'm like, this seems a little sketchy. But this sounds very,
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like
you start seeing
this is very seamlessly integrated. It seems like
this is safe, and you're like, yeah, I don't know about that.
Is it? Is it really? Yeah. I'm not sure.
No, exactly. No, it's super. I mean, it's super clean, and you get a little green check box that comes up and says your payment was received, and then away you go. So it's again, everything's meant to be really simple. And the way we initially stated it when we were working as a team with designers and developers, and this continues to be our mantra, is pretend that you're a mom in a car with 3 kids, the dog's in your lap, and you're at the McDonald's drive-thru. And you're trying to say, yes, I want to attend, or yes, I'll bring brownies because I don't want to bring a main dish. Like, you want to be first. So
yes,
that was kind of our whole outlook going into it. Was like, you got to be able to make it work like this. So,
well, it seems very simple. It seems like that mom in the drive-thru line could definitely pull that off and make that happen. Seems very easy to use.
Thank you. That's lovely to hear. And the feedback's been good. And, we employ some tools to be checking all the time about how we can refine it, seeing where people get hung up, responding to customers who are giving us feedback, and, as quickly as we can. As you can't always do it every time what they want, but we've been pretty responsive, I think. And people have great ideas. So, I mean, that's where we're going.
That's awesome. Yeah, very cool. Well, is there anything else that you would love for our listeners to know about PlanHero? Any other features you'd like to highlight? Anything else you want to touch on?
Well, the one item that we hadn't talked about, I know we'll talk about it later, is the meal delivery. And that's just another handy one that's very, churches do it, but it's also one where people can participate who maybe won't participate in some of the other things. I'm thinking, like, even my own parents, like my mom would love to cook a meal for someone in need, and deliver it, but there are a lot of other things she might not be doing now at 84. But man, she'd make a great meal. So meal delivery is another one that you can do here. And I think there is one other organization out there that does signups for that. But again, now you've got another thing that you're using. So I'm using this for this, this for this. So we kind of try to cover all those things under one umbrella and make it easy to do. So that's probably it. Also, we have great service and support. So
Oh yeah, that's definitely something to
100 line.
highlight.
We have a human on the other end of our phone. So
Oh, we love to hear that. Nobody wants to be talking to a robot or waiting on hold for 6 hours.
Exactly.
So.
It's like, yes,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Well, that is fantastic. So if our listeners are interested in learning more about PlanHero or maybe scheduling some time to, learn or talk to your support team, what are the next steps? Where should they go? What should they do next?
Boy, we've got a contact page on our website. So we're at planhero.com. We've got a contact page, and we are very responsive to that. We offer a 30-day free trial. So for most people, they just go dive in and start poking around, because we don't make you put in a credit card. We've worked really hard to try to use the golden rule, which is we try to treat people the way we want to be treated. And so we don't make you put that credit card in, which means you can try us out. And if we're not everything I said we are, or we don't satisfy your needs, then you just walk away and nothing ever happened. But most of the time you're going to want to subscribe. And speaking of that, we're offering church communications fans a promo code for our annual subscription. And that is ChurchComm with 2 M's, Church COMM 15. So that gives you 15% off of our already very inexpensive annual subscription to any of our tools. But for churches, it's the sign out tool or the club tool that they really want. So
fantastic. Well, we'll be sure to put
lowercase. Sorry, go ahead.
Lowercase. Okay. Yeah. No, you're fine. I was just going to say, we'll be sure to put that in the show notes with the link and the promo code as well. And also, I want our listeners to know that we're going to be continuing to hear from Julie and from some of the team at PlanHero about some more specific ways that you could use the tools that they offer in your church. So be sure, be sure to stay on the lookout for those. They'll be coming out soon. We'll have more episodes. But Julie, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure to talk with you, to learn about PlanHero. I think this tool is amazing, and I think that a lot of churches could really be using it to make everything more efficient.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thanks, Abby.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Church Communications Podcast. If you want to learn more, join over 30,000 church leaders in our Facebook group at churchcommunications.com/group. If you liked today's episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. It's the most impactful way you can help us reach more church leaders and equip them to better communicate for the church. Finally, don't forget to check out our website at churchcommunications.com. Thanks for listening.